In our headlines on this Friday, April 25th, here in capital Seoul, South Korea and the US reach a broad consensus on the framework for future discussions on tariffs and trade, with the aim of hammering out a package deal by early July. Meanwhile, the funeral of Pope Francis takes place this coming Saturday, that is April 26th, at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City, where he made his final appearance on Easter Sunday. And South Korea and Japan celebrate 60 years of diplomatic relations this year, with a host of events throughout the year, including a reenactment of diplomatic messaging practices. We start over in the U.S., where top finance and trade officials from Seoul and Washington met on Thursday for their much-anticipated talks on tariffs. Our Hampyeong covers these talks.
South Korea and the United States have agreed to produce a package of deals to remove new U.S. tariffs before the July 8 deadline, when the 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs is lifted. This was discussed by South Korea's Deputy Prime Minister Choi Sang-mok and Trade Minister An Dok-gun, alongside U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer during a high-level meeting in Washington on Thursday local time. Seoul's Trade Ministry said in a statement that it requested exemptions from reciprocal tariffs and offered cooperation on shipbuilding and energy. Following the meeting, Finance Minister Choi said the two sides agreed to aim for a deal by early July and explained they will hold further discussions on 4 key areas of mutual interest: tariffs and non-tariff measures, economic security, investment cooperation, and currency policy.
We focus particularly on the automobile sector, which faces the greatest negative impact.
Choi also said they asked for understanding from the U.S., as the negotiation process could be affected by Korea's political schedule and the upcoming presidential election. He added that the two sides agreed to discuss this in detail when Greer visits South Korea to take part in the APEC Trade Ministers meeting, scheduled to take place for 2 days starting May 15th. Unlike trade talks between the U.S. and Japan, Thursday's meeting between Seoul and Washington did not include a discussion on the issue of sharing the cost of American troops in Korea. In fact, Trump said in a White House press briefing on Thursday that the military will not be subject to any deals, signaling that the issue of U.S. troop costs will be discussed separately, apart from tariff negotiations, in what pundits in Seoul believe the U.S. could be taking a two-track approach. Meanwhile, Bessent also told reporters that the two countries had a very successful meeting, without disclosing further details on the talks.
We may be moving faster than I thought, and we will be talking technical terms as early as next week, as we reach an agreement on understanding as soon as next week. So South Koreans came early, they came with their A game, and we will see if they follow through on that.
South Korea, which faces 25% U.S. reciprocal tariffs, plans to leverage its shipbuilding capabilities in upcoming tariff negotiations. Trade Minister An told Parliament earlier that the Trump administration has expressed great interest in cooperation in shipbuilding and said this will become an important negotiating card for Korea.
The U.S. is in urgent need of support in the shipbuilding sector, as you mentioned, while Korea possesses the world's most advanced capacity in shipbuilding. Moving forward, if Korea and the U.S. expand cooperation in shipbuilding and other technology and industrial sectors, it could serve as a kind of channel to broaden discussion into other areas, leading to favorable negotiations.
Eyes are now on whether the two countries will be able to reach a fruitful deal that will exempt South Korea from higher levies. 배은지, Arirang News.
Also in Washington, D.C. next week, South Korean and U.S. officials will meet for defense talks. Now, according to the Defense Ministry here, the 2-day Korea-U.S. integrated defense dialogue will begin next Thursday, that is May 1st. Topping the agenda is North Korea's nuclear threat. Since its launch back in the year 2011, this defense dialogue has been a key forum focused on bolstering security partnership. Come June 2nd, the Trump administration will reportedly be hosting an LNG summit in Alaska. According to the New York Times, the administration is hoping to secure tangible investment commitments from its trade partners, including South Korea and Japan, for its Alaska LNG project. The U.S. in recent times has been highlighting its energy exports as one option in tariff discussions with major trading partners. Shipments from China to the U.S. have reportedly shrunk substantially as Beijing continues to contradict the U.S. leader's claims that tariff talks with China are on track. Our Moon Hye-ryun has the latest.
The global container shipping industry is showing early signs of strain amid U.S.-China trade tensions. According to the Wall Street Journal, Hapag-Lloyd, the world's fifth-largest shipping company, said bookings for U.S.-bound containers from China have dropped by nearly a third since the U.S. announced steep tariff hikes earlier this month. In response, demand has surged for shipments from Southeast Asian countries, including Thailand and Cambodia, signaling that businesses are rerouting supply chains. A company spokesperson said a substantial volume of cargo from China is being held back, and smaller vessels may be used due to the decline. With the U.S. imposing a 10% blanket tariff on most partners and up to 145% on Chinese goods, some Chinese exporters have paused shipments altogether. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has continued to insist that negotiations with China are ongoing, claiming that he held trade talks on Thursday morning. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Trump said that the contents of the trade talks may be revealed later, but did not elaborate further. Trump had suggested the day before that the U.S. was actively negotiating with China, raising hopes that a deal to substantially lower tariffs on Chinese imports could be imminent. However, Beijing dismissed Trump's claims of trade talks between the world's two largest economies. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Trump's claims are fake news.
This is fake news. As far as I know, China and the United States have not held consultations or negotiations on the tariff issue, let alone reached an agreement. The tariff war was initiated by the United States, and China's attitude is consistent and clear. If you want to fight, we will fight to the end. If you want to talk, the door is open. Dialogue and negotiation must be equal, respectful and mutually beneficial.
While Trump had told reporters that there were talks between the two countries, his Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said no formal negotiations had taken place. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
On the political frontier, partisan primaries are gaining greater momentum with expectations for the final candidates representing the two main rival parties to be named within the next few days. I have our correspondent Kim Do-yeon live on the line with more. Do-yeon, welcome back. So what's the latest at the Democratic Party?
Tony, the Democratic Party of Korea's primary is nearing its end, and the last debate before the DP's candidate is finalized will be live at 10 p.m. tonight. Utilizing the 90-minute debate, the three candidates will debate over various issues. During the day, the candidates kept themselves busy with campaign work. Frontrunner Lee Jae-myung was in Jeollanam-do province to boost his support in the party's stronghold, with the region's voting still open. He met with people in agricultural business and pledged to make the nation's agro industry globally strong. Both Kim Kyung-soo and Kim Dong-yeon joined the celebration for the 7th anniversary of the Panmunjom Declaration earlier in the afternoon at the National Assembly Library. The DP electors voting for the Jeollado provinces will close on Saturday, while the capital, Gangwon-do province, and Jeju will close on Sunday, which is also when the convention will be held to name the primary's winner and officially kick off the presidential campaign for the party.
Right, I see. Do-yeon, what about the People Power Party? I understand the verbal battles is still on.
That's right, Tony. Today's one-on-one debates featured Han Dong-un and Hong Jun-pyo, who chose each other as partners, and it began at 4 p.m. and runs until 7. The two are clashing over how they view former President Yoon's declaration of martial law and over who is more competitive against DP's likely candidate, Lee Jae-myung. Meanwhile, speculation grows over whether acting President Han Duck-soo will join the race. All four PPP primary candidates, including An Cheol-soo, who joined this morning, have now pledged to merge their campaigns with the acting president's if he does run. Initially, only Kim Moon-soo supported the idea, even welcoming the idea of the acting president running. The remaining three were not in favor of him running, but now they say they'll unite the camps if he does. Some PPP supporters are also in favor, although the acting president himself remains silent on the matter. And keep in mind, the primary will be decided 50-50 between PPP electors and an open survey, increasing the weight of party members' votes. That's all for now. Reporting live from the National Assembly, this is Kim Do-yeon.
Dozens of world leaders will join tens of thousands of mourners at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City tomorrow, that is Saturday, for the funeral of Pope Francis. Our Joseon has more.
The funeral mass for Pope Francis, who passed away on Monday, will be held at 10 a.m. local time on Saturday, April 26th, in St. Peter's Square in the heart of the Vatican. His body was moved to St. Peter's Basilica for public mourning, and in just 2 days, more than 90,000 people have paid their respects. On the first day, there were larger crowds than expected, with people waiting more than 8 hours. The Vatican extended visiting hours on that day until 5:30 a.m. to welcome them. It is expected that more than 250,000 mourners will pay their respects before the final day of public visiting, and an even larger crowd is anticipated for the funeral mass. The funeral mass will be presided over by Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, the leader of the College of Cardinals, with cardinals, bishops and priests from around the world jointly officiating. In accordance with the Pope's wishes, the ceremony will be a simple and modest one, significantly simplified from traditional papal funerals. Instead of the ornate, triple-layered coffin used in the past, his body will be placed in a single, simple wooden coffin. A scroll documenting the achievements of his papacy, along with coins and medals, will be sealed inside. Many world leaders will also gather for Pope Francis' funeral. U.S. President Donald Trump and his wife Melania, Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Prince William of the United Kingdom, French President Emmanuel Macron and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be present. South Korea is also sending a delegation led by the country's culture minister Yoo In-chun. Migrants and refugees who are especially close to the Pope's heart during his lifetime will also attend. After the funeral mass, the Pope will be laid to eternal rest at the Santa Maria Maggiore Basilica, a place he visited often and held dear. The funeral procession will slowly travel about 6 kilometers through central Rome, passing historic landmarks, including the Colosseum. Joseon, Arirang News.
Back on the local front, Seoul has shared much concern over a sea structure built by Beijing off the west coast of the Korean peninsula. The concern was conveyed to Chinese officials during dialogue between the two governments here in Seoul earlier this week. The Chinese delegation claimed the structure was built for fish farming and invited South Korean authorities to confirm for themselves. Starting 2018 until 2024, 3 structures have been set up in the Provisional Maritime Zone, where the two countries' exclusive economic zones overlap, fueling fears that China may be seeking territorial rights. China has launched its Shenzhou 20 mission with 3 astronauts to the Tiangong space station late Thursday afternoon. This latest mission marks the nation's 15th manned space flight. About 7 hours after liftoff, the rocket docked at the space station. The 3 astronauts on board will spend 6 months at the station conducting spacewalks and field experiments. They replace the Shenzhou 19 crew members who have been at the station for 175 days and are scheduled to return to Earth on April 29th. Russia launched an alarming attack against Ukraine in the early hours of Thursday amid U.S.-led efforts to secure a ceasefire, prompting a rare rebuke from U.S. President Donald Trump. Our Ian Jin reports.
In the early hours of Thursday local time, Russia conducted a massive combined missile and drone attack on Kiev, killing at least 12 people and injuring over 90. The strikes, which began around 1 a.m., targeted multiple districts and caused significant damage to residential buildings and vehicles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called the assault one of Moscow's most outrageous, while officials reported that it involved ballistic missiles. The country's interior minister said that apart from the Kyiv area, 7 other regions were targeted in the mass attack. The attack marks the deadliest assault on the capital since last July and comes amid heightened tension over negotiations to end the ongoing conflict. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump, in a rare move, criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin, urging him to stop such attacks, adding that Putin demonstrated very bad timing and that the attacks were not necessary. Trump had said on Wednesday that he believed Russia was ready for a peace deal with Ukraine. He also lashed out at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying he was harder to deal with than expected, accusing him of prolonging the war by refusing to surrender the Russia-occupied Crimean Peninsula as part of a possible deal. He also said that Russia had made a pretty big concession to end the war by not taking the whole country. But Ukraine and much of Europe have fiercely pushed back, arguing that Russia holding back on a land grab is hardly a concession. And Zelensky reiterated that any peace agreement, including Russia's demand to keep control of Crimea, is a red line for Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said further discussions were planned for the weekend to finalize a peace deal. How things develop in the next few days will be crucial for the future direction of U.S.-led peace talks. Ian-jin, Arirang News.
Up next, we share with you an elaborate reenactment of a past diplomatic mission from Korea to Japan as we celebrate 60 years of formal bilateral ties this year. Our correspondent Song Yoo-jin files this report.
일본국으로 향할 상사는 전하께 어명을 받으라.
This is a recreation of the Joseon Tongsinsa, the diplomatic mission sent from Korea to Japan between the 17th and 19th centuries. The word Tongsinsa means envoys of communication built on trust. Between 1607 and 1811, a total of 12 missions were dispatched at the request of Japan's shogunate government. Their purpose was to restore diplomatic relations after Japan attacked Korea in the late 16th century. Each year, the Busan Cultural Foundation brings this historic journey back to life. This year's event carries more special meaning, marking the 60th anniversary of the normalization of diplomatic ties between South Korea and Japan.
Today's ceremony reenacts the moment the royal order is handed to the lead envoy, the Jongsa, before the mission sets off. This year we are recreating the 1763 mission from during King Yongjo's reign, an event being revived for the first time in 16 years.
Every Tongsinsa mission begins with the appointment of the 3 key envoys, Jongsa, Busa, and Jongsa관, the core of the 300 to 500 delegation. This year, the role of chief envoy Jongsa is being played by Shin Yun-chan, the mother of the late Lee Soo-hyun, a Korean student who died in Tokyo in 2001 while trying to save a Japanese man who had fallen onto train tracks.
People call Japan a close but distant neighbor, but reflecting on my experience, it's always been a close country, for example, through family and work. Even though there are political tensions, cultural exchanges like this show how we can move forward together.
Following the appointment ceremony in Seoul, the procession travels south to Busan, where it will board a vessel modeled after the original Tongsinsa ships and set sail for Japan. 2 weeks later, by mid-May, the vessel is set to arrive in Osaka. For those unable to follow the journey in person, the Seoul Museum of History is hosting a special exhibition introducing the Goodwill Mission. It features over 100 artifacts, including diplomatic records inscribed on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register.
These missions were re-established after the devastation of war at a time when Japan was still seen as a bitter enemy. And yet Korea chose diplomacy. They reflect the desire to stabilize society and preserve peace even with a former foe. That message of cultural dialogue is what we wanted to emphasize in this exhibition.
Centuries ago, Korean envoys sailed not just across seas, but across political divides, guided by the pursuit of peace. And today, as Korea and Japan continue navigating a complex relationship, the spirit of the Tongsinsa reminds us that history, when honored, can still guide us toward a more thoughtful future. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
And now, for those of you here in Seoul who have yet to make weekend plans, how about a trip to a beautiful butterfly festival in the southern part of the country? Our Park Onu was there.
Busy and colorful wings flutter through the air, signaling the full arrival of spring. And there's no better place to experience it than at South Korea's biggest butterfly festival in Hampyeong County, Jeollanam-do Province. Celebrating its 27th edition, Hampyeong Butterfly Festival showcases around 200,000 butterflies of nearly 20 different species. Among them, the Korean tiger swallowtail has been named the Butterfly of the Year. Caterpillars, larvae, and other fascinating insects also add to the festival's charm, making it a rare opportunity to enjoy nature up close. After the festival kicked off on Friday, people from all over the country visited to enjoy not just the winged insects, but the vibrant scenes of spring.
My friends and I are all over 70, but we've been here since early this morning, feeling as excited as if we were 18 again. There are so many flowers, butterflies, and even people. It's such a joy to be here.
It's really fun to see butterflies I've only seen in books. There are so many kinds like the cabbage white butterfly that I know, and I actually got to see them today. I hope more people can come and enjoy them too.
The festival isn't just for observing, as it's filled with intriguing activities to encounter butterflies, including feeding them using floral bouquets. Nabiya, Nabiya. One of the greatest things you can try here is releasing a butterfly, so I'll be trying it myself. As I do it, I'll be sending off my greatest wishes on their wings, hoping they'll spark a new, beautiful butterfly effect. Now go, fly away. While butterfly populations are in decline globally, especially down by 22% in the US over the past 2 decades, Hampyeong has worked hard to keep its ecosystem thriving.
Instead of collecting butterflies from the wild, we raise them using selected breeding stock. To thrive, butterflies need host plants for caterpillars and nectar plants for adults. And this clean and natural area of Hampyeong offers both in abundance.
He stressed that the combination of natural resources, expertise, and sustainable practices is making Hampyeong an ideal place for both the butterflies and the festival. Offering visitors a colorful spring escape with butterflies galore, the festival runs through May 6. Park Onu, Arirang News, Hampyeong.
The hot summer-like weather took a step back today. The cold air came down overnight and the temperature in Seoul dropped to the single digits this morning to just 7 degrees Celsius. Even in the middle of the day, most areas were 1 to 7 degrees lower than yesterday. These mild conditions will continue until early next week. Meanwhile, the atmosphere is very dry as the clear weather continues for days. A dry weather advisory is currently in place in most parts of the eastern parts of the country and the Gyeongsang-do provinces. The atmosphere is expected to get drier and drier as there will be no rain for the time being. Tomorrow, Chuncheon will start off at 3 degrees, Gwangju and Daegu at 7 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 20 degrees in Seoul, 24 degrees in Gyeongju. This weekend will be perfect to enjoy outdoor activities with clear skies. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, and today we touch upon the latest on tariff talks between Seoul and Washington.